Hey everybody, Josh Fifthwell Gamer here. So, with the launching of ARMSX2 for the PlayStation 2 emulation scene, okay, we have a emulator that, in all honesty, I can't wait until it gets a few more updates because it is neck and neck almost with Nether SX2 and Ether as far as the amount of games that it can play. And so far, I haven't had any games that I've launched into that I have not been able to actually do just that, to launch. And so having this emulator and being able to see the improved performance, especially on Mali GPUs, is amazing. And so here we have the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, which is a beloved classic to many people. And a lot of people are wondering, how good is this improved performance, you know, when it comes to this emulator on certain titles? And so that's what we're here to find out today. So let's jump into some of the absolute hardest of the hard to emulate PlayStation 2 games and see just exactly how far we can push the Dimensity 1100 chipset. So before we get jumping too heavy into everything, one thing I did want to do is show off some of the settings of this emulator that you can do. So for example, you can change the layout of your games by tapping this icon right next to the triple dot up here in the top right corner, and it'll change the layout of your games. It'll change the size of the box art. You can tap over here on the side and you can change the cover art style. You can change it to 2D. And so there you see how it displays it as like a 2D cartridge, or you can change it back to the 3D. And so, you know, then when you go into your settings on the right side, this is going to be where you set your BIOS, where you put all of your other settings, and where you set up your controls on the device for how you map out your controllers. And also you can turn on patches and cheats, which is a very good idea because this app, when you are linked in with the internet, and they update this app, they update it with the patches inside of the emulator, which is helpful because that's something that they started doing with the Xbox 360 emulator Zendroid. So when you go into your settings here, all right, so you can see here, you can change language, you can change the backgrounds to the menu and customize it. You can customize your library music, but none of that's really important stuff. The important stuff is right here in your performance settings, okay, where you can turn on speed hacks. Now, I don't mess with the display resolution as far as the scaling goes on any of these devices. But when it comes down to your cycle rate and your cycle skip, just like on Ether SX2 or Nether SX2, you can change that for better or worse to speed up or slow down games. And also, when you jump into a game, one setting that is also very, very helpful is that if you go to your renderer right here, okay, where it says the GS multi-threading, you can make a lot of games pick up the frame rate whenever you're increasing the resolution without frame dips. There's also a section on here where you can do frame generation. Now, this right here underneath your renderer setting is where you're going to go if you want to change it to OpenGL or Vulkan or to do software rendering. And then right here where it says upscale, this is where you actually do your actual internal resolution upscaling. And so most of the time, because this device only caps out at 750p, okay, not 720, 750, but I do just go ahead and try to cap the resolution at no higher than 720p because you're basically getting all you can out of it. And there's no need to overtax the system to try and squeeze more out on this 4.7-inch display. And so here in display mode, I've got it stretched out. That just fills out the 16:9 display. On your FMVs, you can set it to 4:3 or 16:9, however you want to do that. Okay. And so these are just some of the more important settings that you have. Obviously, there's more things that you can tweak in here, but we don't need to get into all of that today. So let's go ahead and jump into some gameplay now. Okay, so the first game that we're going to test out, just to get us started here for PS2, is going to be Batman Begins. And if you have not played Batman Begins, I think that they got a lot of the precursor work done for the Arkham series done with this game, because the fighting to me actually seems pretty similar somewhat. Maybe slightly slower paced, but nonetheless pretty fluid, if that's the word I'm looking for. Okay, so here we are in the first level, and I actually went ahead and put the resolution to 1.75 because I believe that that is 720p. But hold on real quick, and what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll actually we'll display this stuff on the screen so that we can all see it. Alright, so now we have it all displayed up in the top corner here. Right now we're at a full 30 frames a second, and it does appear that we are at roughly the 720p of this display, which works out really, really good because the fact that we're able to max the resolution on the display and then play a game that looks this flipping good, that's definitely my kind of way to go. And I've actually beaten this game. One thing I loved about this particular movie tie-in is the fact that they changed the storyline of the movie to this game is pretty much its own story. Even though it says it's Batman Begins, you can pretty much count on something completely different than what you saw in the movie, but yet it still plays like an awesome Batman game, because it is. So one thing between games here while we're jumping through the menus is if you see that the FPS looks too small for you when you're trying to run your own testing in your own time, okay, you can go into your menus here where at the top of it, it's a slide menu, okay? But what you want to do is you want to go to your on-screen settings, and where it says OSD size, you can up the size of the messages on the screen by simply sliding the little slider there. You can change the color of it, you know, all that kind of good stuff. Okay, so next up we're going to jump into a game that was re-released on the Nintendo Switch, and that is Blood Rain 2. And so, as you can see here, now I've upped the size of the on-screen settings to where you can actually see the resolution, and so we're 896 by 784, so yes, we're above 720p, which is, you know, we're maxing the resolution of this display. And so we're going to go ahead and go into our display options in the game here, and we're going to turn it on to widescreen, make it nice and narrow for us, and now everything looks as it should be. Let's go ahead and jump into some gameplay. Alright, so here we are in the main gameplay, and let's see how long it takes for some nasties to show up. And here come the nasties. So let's go down there and kick everybody's bones. Alright, finally some people to fight. About took long enough. Oh my, this game could be quite gratuitous. These people may not like what they are seeing right now, so let's try not to keep it too bloody. We don't want the people to send me ugly strikes and tell me that I can't be showing this stuff on my gameplay and footage and such. Alright, I'm eating people's faces. That just doesn't look right. Nope. Alright, so next up we have the game that probably would not be able to be made in today's current climate. We have Rockstar's Bully. And before I got started on the gameplay, I went ahead and got into the pause menu and changed everything to 16:9 within the game itself so that Jimmy didn't look all overweight and such. But as you can see here, this game runs at a full 30 frames a second, and once again, you know, we are maxing the resolution of this display. And, you know, if you never got the chance to play this one growing up, this is a coming-of-age type of game where there are bullies and mean people doing mean things to people where nobody filed a lawsuit. Alright, so I figure next up I could jump into some Crash Bandicoot in the Wrath of Cortex. Alright, so here we are on the first level with all the snowfall, and so I understand that this game is also available through Dolphin, and so there's probably been people that have been able to play this game on lower end hardware utilizing Dolphin. However, you know, for some people it's about the system that you're playing it on. A lot of people don't want to play GameCube. Some people just want to play PlayStation 2, and then there's other people that don't want nothing to do with PS2 and they just want to play GameCube. And so this showcase in particular is obviously just going to be for people who want to play the vast majority of their higher end, you know, retro emulation on the PS2, because there were many titles that were crossed over between the two. And not only that, but some of them were actually better on one system than the other, whether it was textures or whether, you know, one of them had more content, or maybe one of them had different characters than the other. And so each of them had their slight differences that made them special. Okay, so next up we have Destroy All Humans 2, Make Love Not War. And the first Destroy All Humans game was absolutely hilarious. I mean, you show up at the cow field and you're like literally just throwing cows everywhere. But I never got to play the second one. And I can say this much though, the first and second one, because I did launch both of them, originally they both had a horrible glitch. And so even if you had a handheld that would play them perfectly, as far as performance goes, like, you know, the frame rates and upholding the speed of the game, you were running into problems because you had this weird patchy lighting effect thing that was going on with the screen. It just didn't look right. And so now here we are, and we've got Destroy All Humans 2 running at full speed without any kind of glitching or effects or anything like that. And this looks tremendous to me. Alright, so next up we're going to jump in here with some driver parallel lines. This is an exciting series. This got its start way back on the PS1 with Driver 1 and Driver 2. And the first thing that I thought about when I saw the original Driver game, because I didn't play the original Driver until long after I had played GTA 3, was I was like, man, this had to be where GTA 3 got a lot of their ideas from, because the open world and the driving, it just had a lot of similarities. Alright, so here we are in the opening cutscene, and it looks like it's starting to bog down on us. That kinda sucks. Oh man. Okay, so it doesn't look like Driver Parallel Lines is doing all that well with this emulator. Now, let's make a quick comparison while I've got this game going. And let's jump out of it real quick. And let's jump into NetherSX2 real quick. And find out real quick if this game will actually run better in NetherSX2. So we just got to find it real quick. Where were we? Driver Parallel Lines Limited Edition. Alright, so now we're going to fast forward through the intro to this, and hopefully it won't be but just a second here. Alright, so jumping into NetherSX2, and it's not even running. I mean, it's showing that it has a frame rate, but it's not doing anything. So let's see what happens if I bump it over here to Software Renderer. Okay, just to see if it'll make the game actually display. And so I'm going to jump out of it real quick, and then I'm going to jump right back into it to see if the game will actually display using the Software Renderer. And if it will, then we'll know that it'll actually play in Nether. But I'm holding down fast forward. It's showing 120 frames a second right now, and it is not even launching. So it looks like ARMSX2 has the upper hand in this game, and the fact that at least it is booting and launching in ARMSX2, unlike NetherSX2 4248 here. Okay, so here we are with everybody's favorite angry Spartan, Kratos, okay? And one thing I want to say about the God of War game is that when you get a lot of enemies on the screen, it will slow down a little bit. And so you can always do the typical cycle skip that you would if you were using something like Nether, where you swipe over here, you go into your settings, you go into your performance settings, and you would basically just add a cycle skip of, let's just say 2 for this one. But another thing that you want to make sure that you have turned on is that you want to make sure that when you start these games that you go into your settings and you go to your patches, and that you apply your widescreen patches if you're going to be playing it in 16:9, as well as your no interlacing patches. And a lot of times that actually does help your performance when you use these patches. And so as you can see right now, Kratos is pretty much moving full speed. I really don't have to do anything else for this. Of course, what's going to happen though is when you change your cycle skip and your cycle rate and things like that, it's going to throw off your frame rate counter, and so it's going to be inaccurate. So you can't look at it and be like, oh yeah, it's running at a lock 30 or it's running at a lock 60. So a lot of times, a lot of games, it's not going to read properly once you put these patches or once you change certain settings. But the good thing about this app is it allows you to change these settings on a game per game basis, and it keeps those settings that way when you leave the game. And so that's a big, huge win, because, you know, I hate having to reapply the same settings and then change settings between games all the time. So being able to do my settings on a game per game basis with an app like ARMSX2 is just absolutely terrific to me. Okay, so now I'm going into a game that I have had no luck with in the past, but just constantly crashing on me. And so let's see if it's going to crash on me with ARMSX2 the way that it has with Ether and the way that it has with Nether. This is the original Killzone. And so let's see how she fares. I really want this one to work. Okay, so we are not crashing, but we are running at a fairly low frame rate. So I wonder if I can do anything about that real quick. So let's change some settings and see if we can't get her to make nice with us. Because I really want this one to run at a good frame rate. It would be super nice, even if I do have to do some hacks to get it there. I really want to push this one across the finish line. So let's see, I just kind of max underclocked it there, and that didn't do me any good. Alright, so let's go back into settings here, and let's see, we're going to go back down to 0 there, and we're going to go all the way down here. Alright, okay, that made it even worse. Alright, well, ladies and gentlemen, looks like for slightly lower end hardware that Killzone maintains its difficulty as a hard flipping game to render. How sad. Okay, next up we have Kaya the Dark Lineage. Okay, now I discovered this game whenever I was just running through random places one day on the internet, I guess you could say, when it comes to PlayStation 2. And I looked at the art style and I kind of fell in love with it. It kind of reminded me of like a really beefed up Conker's Bad Fur Day. Or it also reminded me of another game that I can recall that's called Malice. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Malice, but that's also a really very colorful game, much like this one. But, you know, this game gets into some crazy effects right out the gate with water and different things like that. And honest to goodness, like that is just, it's kind of right up my alley for the kind of things that can... I love the whole set the trap, bait and switch kind of thing they got going on. And then not only that, but it also kind of reminds me a little bit of the Legend of Zelda series and some of its gameplay mechanics as well. Just nowhere near as polished. But the main character is semi-likable, I'd say. But anyway, yeah, seeing this game run full speed, because this game has bogged down on some of my other handhelds, like my RG476H, and so seeing it run full speed on this using ARMSX2 is really nice. Okay, so you always have to throw at least one good fighting game in there, especially ones that are more demanding. And so Mortal Kombat Armageddon is actually a pretty demanding fighting game. Once again, this is one of the ones where I have watched frame rates steadily decline on other slightly lower end hardware. And so it looks to me, from what I'm seeing so far, that we're going to keep it at a locked 60 frames a second. So let's see what happens when we actually get into a fight here. Alright, so we're still reading 60 frames on the top there, and oh yeah, we're definitely running full speed. So if you're looking to get your Mortal Kombat on, then yep, ARMSX2 with the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro is going to do it for you. And just remember, we're only testing this on the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. If it's doing this good on the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, then what do you think it's going to do with something new, like my brand new Retroid Pocket Nova, for example? And so I would have thrown some of that into this video, but I wanted to keep this video specifically about the RP4 Pro for my classic gamers out there. However, you know, you are going to get to see a little bit of PS2, I assure you, when I go to do my review on that device. But yeah, definitely running full speed with our fighting games here, and I couldn't have asked for more. Okay, so next up we have Psyops, the Mindgate Conspiracy, and it looks like there's some slight glitching going on here with this one. Didn't expect that, honest to goodness. But the frame rate appears to be running good. Now, let's see what happens if I turn off the patches, because the emulator itself actually gives you a warning when you go to apply patches that are older patches from older systems, that those patches could cause glitches in the game. So let's see what happens now that I've turned off those patches. And yeah, oh nope, it's still glitching out on me a little bit here. So I don't really think that there's anything I can do about that. it's still playing, but I don't think I want to play it like this with all these glitches. So sorry guys, this game is probably going to be better played on ARMSX2. Okay, so next up we jump into the Punisher, and I had to put a maximum underclock or whatever you want to call it on this one. And when I did, I mean, the game seems to be running full speed, but at the same time, this is one of the ones where it does get a little bit choppy, and once again, the frame rate is not going to read properly once you do that. So, you know, just bear that in mind if you were expecting it to run full speed or whatever. But, you know, you could always try your luck with this game in ARMSX2 to see if it runs full speed. So I decided I would try the game in the ARMSX2 4248 build just to see how it plays. And right now it's not running full speed, so let's see what happens if I turn this one with an underclock. So I'm going to go right here into my system settings and let's go to the max underclock just like I did in ARMSX2 and see what actually happens now. And it's almost the same. Pretty much the same. So the performance across the board for this game, yeah, very much the same on both emulators. Okay, so next up I figured I would try Scalar. Okay, Scalar is a game that reminds me an awful lot of like the Ratchet and Clank series, and believe it or not, this is a very demanding game to run. And I almost would wonder if it's built on the same engine, but you can see all the particle effects flying around the screen at any given time. Okay, that ought to give you a clue as to what all is happening on the screen. Like, you can see that it's a very graphically demanding, and last time that I emulated this on lower end hardware, the lighting, like flying into the sunlight, and like when I'm going around the corners on this little this roller coaster type ride thing that I'm doing here, yeah, it was slowing down badly last time. And so this emulator is actually handling this game very surprisingly well. So, like I said, this game is called Scalar, and so if you're into action platformers that are open world, this is one you should definitely put on your list to play, because it's a super fun game, and the premise is actually kind of funny too. Okay, so this next game up is going to be a true test for this handheld. Okay, a true test for this emulator more specifically. This is Sly Cooper 3. And so right now we are just in the main opening of the game, and so let's see if this device can actually handle Sly Cooper 3 at full speed. Okay, so right out the gate here, going into the opening sequence, it started out looking very promising, and then it just took a complete nosedive. Okay, so I did Sly Cooper, and that was a slideshow, and Shadow of the Colossus appears to be even more of a slideshow. Sorry, guys. Okay, so last up I figured I would try some Yakuza 2, and while the gameplay itself is very fast and fluid, the actual graphics do appear to have some brokenness in the story and in the backgrounds. And I just applied the patches for the game to see if that would make a difference. And so right now I don't seem to be seeing any more graphical glitches ever since I applied the two patches. However, I'm going to guess and say that if I play further into the game, there probably will be more graphical glitches, unfortunately. And remember, this emulator is still very new. And so we're very fortunate to have all these new emulators popping up right now, and some of them with great high capabilities. There's a brand new PlayStation 4 emulator that just came out for Android. Okay, so just getting to see any of this stuff run sometimes is amazing, and the more the merrier, as Mr. Sajano would say, you know, because if one of them gets shut down, it's nice that it's like whack-a-mole, that you can't take us all, you know what I'm saying? So anyways, I'm Josh the Fifth Wheel Gamer. I really hope you enjoyed this showcase of what ARMSX is up to on lower end hardware, and I'm pretty willing to bet that if you play this on something like a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, which I am going to be testing very soon when it comes to these games on my Retroid Pocket Nova, so you guys stay tuned for that, and you guys tune in for the review and for all of the following that's going to be coming up. So anyways, I'm Josh the Fifth Wheel Gamer, and I am out of here. Like and subscribe for more great content, share and comment down below.